Maybe we'll start with who I think is Aunt Laura.
This is me.
Is Tia Laura?
I'm here. I'm doing
Hello.
my
Is
facial
that Tia
today. How are you guys? Relaxing?
We're relaxed.
Relaxing.
We're focusing on our beauty today.
Good. Very important.
So we probably are throwing viewers off a little bit. We are showing off some things that we do to help maintain beauty and aging. So maybe we can tell the people at home what we have on here. Maybe we'll start with who I think is Aunt Laura.
This is me. I'm having my mask of acid hyaluronic. I don't know how you pronounce that.
Mm-hmm.
Hydrololic.
Hydroloric or whatever it's called for a moisturizer.
Uh-huh.
And irritation of my face because as you can see, it's a little sunny. It's been really dry and human sometimes, but yeah, today is Saturday and usually I do something in my face special like today.
Very nice. Very nice. Mom, what do you have on your face?
This is a lovely mask with lavender and helps me
Mm.
relax at night and go to sleep and sleep enough because sleep is vital.
Very true. Very true. And I have patches on the bags under my eyes, which I think developed early 40s, probably more pronounced. And I think it's the same concept, I think it's hyaluronic acid or something like that,
I
at
know.
Lauda, which is good for hydration because we'll talk
Mm.
about the process of aging and what happens to our skin, but we lose elasticity, and hydration is even more important as we age. And so I do these periodically. I think ideally it should be 2 to 3 times a week. I'm not as good at that, but yeah. And what I like about them is they're very pretty, right? They have little stars on them, so you have to make it kind of exciting.
Love them. Doesn't have those things.
So you look a little bit like an alien, but that's okay because when you take it off, you're gonna look gorgeous.
I'm telling you, it takes 10 to 15 minutes and you're fresh new.
Refreshed. So while we talk, at some point we'll probably be taking these off. I think I have just a few more
Yes.
minutes left with mine. But we'll segue into our discussion today because today's talk is inspired by, well, a short video that I did, which was a true story of what happened to me that really made me reflect on the process of aging. But also the dicho that we talked about last time, which, as a reminder, como te ves, yo me vi, como me ves, te verás. So, how you
Totally.
look now is how I once saw myself, and how you see me now, one day you will see yourself, right? And, it's very poignant because it really is talking about we all get to the same place eventually. And I think one of the more obvious things for us as we age is our appearance changes, other physical features may change. But I think that it's important to really define what beauty is for you, right? Because I think that's also changed over time. So today we're going to talk about our experiences with aging, what we thought when we were younger, what we witnessed as far as what people told us beauty was, what was true, what was not true, how we see and define beauty for ourselves now, and give some tips at the end for people on how to age gracefully, right? And learn to broaden the definition of beauty for themselves. So that is the plan for today. Does that sound good?
Good.
Very
Great.
good.
Ready.
All right. So
To
for
rock and roll.
starters, I'm going to peel off my eye things because I think they are done.
They're already done. Yeah, mine is getting there. It's getting drier in certain places, but it's really, it gets really moisture in your face.
Yeah, no, which is really important. And I do want to
Hmm.
talk, I want to start by talking a little bit about the beauty industry, because I think, good or bad, I think a lot of how we've defined beauty for ourselves has been based on what we're sold, right? In terms of the big beauty industry, which, by the way, every year I was reading grows 10% every year. So the beauty industry just keeps expanding, it doesn't shrink. And again, good or bad, because I think it's also shifted the areas of focus over time, and I'm going to get to that. But in 2025, it was estimated that sales in beauty, the broad definition of beauty, was $690 billion worldwide, with 177 billion being skincare, and then
Hmm.
69 billion being cosmetics, right?
Wow.
Big time,
Wow.
right?
Yeah.
So no wonder there's so much focus on visuals of what beauty is, right? They're selling products. But the good news is that over time, and probably we're in a time now where people are focusing on holistic care, things like focusing on self-care, focusing on vitamins to enrich inward, right? And sleep. 63% of the people surveyed in this one survey said that sleep is more important than anything else. And so what you've seen is a shift in the beauty industry targeting those things, right? Like mom, your sleep mask, right? With scents,
Hmm.
lavender, often, or eucalyptus, sprays for your
Mm.
pillows, sleep aids, right? So that people can get better sleep. And that's a good thing in a sense, right? Because now we're seeing focus on, like I said, more well-rounded, holistic beauty. I do want to talk, it's very interesting because in researching for the discussion, I came across something that the Associates in Plastic Surgery put together. Because I think a big piece is, are you willing to do extreme things for beauty, right? And so I was looking at generationally what people are looking at. So for baby boomers, which the two of you are, although Aunt Lada, you're in the
Yes.
middle between boomer and Gen X, but they tend to look for products that enhance natural qualities. And they really focus on quality products, right? So they may spend a little bit more on
Yeah,
products, and maybe that's, you can confirm that, because they really
totally.
want it to be effective. So they're willing to do that. But this generation is open to some plastic surgery. And the focus for this group is mainly facelifts and neck
Mm.
lifts.
All right. Okay. Save a lot of money.
Exactly. Exactly. Now, Gen X is my
They don't
generation.
care.
We're very
Ah,
cynical and we're
mhm.
very careful with what we do. And so we research a lot, which is very true. I often research products months before I decide to purchase anything. But
Okay.
with that, so by the time we purchase something, it hopefully is a quality item. It might still be cost effective, because I would also say I'm not willing to spend a ton of money either. And in terms of plastic surgery, this generation tends to look at things like liposuction and eye
Mhm.
surgery.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so eyelid surgery, because, and I know in mine I see a little drooping, and so they'll like lift them up a little bit.
Yeah, they lifted.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Now, millennials, which is the generation after me, they have focused on overall wellness. And that broad definition of beauty, they say, comes from the younger generation, because now they're looking at things like self-care and holistic care. And so this group looks for non-invasive options. They're not big on the more extreme surgery things. They might do Botox, which you've probably seen lots of commercials about Botox.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And on the more extreme ends, maybe breast augmentation and tummy tucks is more typical for this generation, at least according to a 2025 survey of that. So that
Mhm.
gives us a sense of where each generation is in terms of how they're approaching maintaining beauty.
Okay.
And I don't know if that sounded true for your generation, the things that I mentioned.
It's totally true. Totally. For me, it's exactly what it is in my generation.
Yeah.
Looking for good, high quality
High
products.
quality products for sure. Which I always remember of you and Lauda, because I think We'll get into our own experiences, but I know that was one thing you instilled very early on was like, you can't start too early with good products to take care of yourself.
Do you remember? Yes, of course. And I used to spend a lot of money, but that was for me, right? So I really like that thing of I know it's expensive, but it's for me. So
Mm-hmm.
that's
Worth
what
it.
it was
Mm-hmm.
worth. Exactly was worth.
Exactly. Exactly. So let's start looking into our
I'm
own
gonna
journeys
I'm
around
gonna
beauty.
take my wonderful.
Ooh,
Left
you're
a lovely
glowing.
skin.
See, I'm glowing. See
See,
the
there you
difference?
go.
Very
If you do it
Beautiful.
once a week, I'm telling you, you're saving money.
That's right.
Beautiful.
And then you do a little bit of this too,
Yes. A
you
little
know,
massaging, right?
massaging. So it will
It
penetrate a bit more.
stimulates the skin, which is very important, right? You don't want to rub, like even under your
Oh,
eyes, you don't want to rub it, you want to, or pull it, you want to tap down.
exactly. Tap down. Very
And you know
important.
that is funny because I think it is in Korea. Once I saw a documentary and they actually slap a bit the face.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to have to tell you this. My mom, your grandma, since I remember, she does that. She was like, and I go, Mama, you're hurting yourself. Oh, no, no, no. It's circulation in my face. She was done. Really, it's exactly
She knew what
what
was
you
up.
do.
She knew that was the thing to
I'm
do.
telling you. This is,
Let's dive into that because I think we learn what beauty is from, of course, like our mothers, our aunties, the people that are around us that as they're aging, they instill in you like these are things to do proactively. So
yeah.
I'm curious in all the things you were told about how to maintain beauty, what was something you found to not really be true and something that you discovered was really true? So I will start with mommy.
Hey.
Well, I have to tell you that it is true. You know, as I was growing up, I would see grandma and the aunts and even our grandmothers really take care of their skin. And of course, nutrition has a lot to do with it. In Mexico, the food is very nutritious in the sense there is a lot of legumes, vegetables, your beans almost daily, but the creams were very important. And I remember in those years, you know, like the 30s and 40s probably, I remember that the creams that were available that were good before the Lancome, you know, from France and so on, Mama used a lot of the Pond's cream.
Hmm.
Pond's was one.
Hmm. I remember pun.
And that was for cleaning, and then another for moisturizing.
Hmm.
And also one that was called concha nácar. That, I guess, something made from the from the shells, would supposedly, and it worked, their skin was beautiful, Mama and her sisters, to take away spots, you know, age spots or whatever.
Hmm.
And they were very, you know, diligent in their skincare, also maintaining their weight. But there wasn't much available then as extreme surgeries like now, plastic surgeries. And then, of course, I'm sure that you have having your genes, it helps.
Hmm. Hmm.
But yeah, since we were small, we could see that they were very concerned. Grandma, absolutely.
About skincare.
Uh-huh.
Constantly.
And when you say they didn't do too many extreme things, I would wonder, I'm sure they did things like girdles for their weight.
Girdles, and it was funny because for exercising your body, you would put these things, whatever it was. I don't remember exactly, but supposedly made you sweat. And what they did was, I don't recall there were gyms then as available as now, of course. So they would do exercises at home. But in grandma
Yoga.
did yoga all her life.
Yeah, yoga.
Which I remembered seeing her daily anytime we were over there doing her. It was almost like yoga slash Pilates, but she was
Uh-huh.
very
Yes.
disciplined about doing that. What do you think was something that was not true that they told you? you needed to do for your beauty?
Well, they were expensive creams that supposedly will take away the wrinkles if you were of mature age. And there were some very expensive when the French ones, began to come, mostly. And I recall that sometimes it didn't seem to be working. So it's not probably how expensive it is as how good they are. Sometimes a very simple cream, because I remember in my young days, in my adolescence, the things available, I used oil of Olay, was a small bottle, pink, and that was a great moisturizer, not expensive at all. But unfortunately, I was not as disciplined as Mama or Auntie Laura. And then working as a preschool teacher, we would be under the sun. Sometimes I would forget the hat. I was not that, careful as they were.
Mm-hmm.
And it, at my age, almost 80, Mama looked better. I mean, her skin at 90 was still, nice and fresh. And of course, genes probably have a lot to do with it. But yeah, I think what was not true is that you have to buy expensive things to be good. No, look, all over. Like nowadays, I have seen that something as simple as I think it's called aqua. What is it called? It's almost like an oil.
Aquaphor.
Aquaphor.
Mm-hmm. Not
If you have,
sponsored,
see, if you have
unless you
something in,
want to.
Yeah, yeah, we can.
and I have a tendency to dry skin. And I put a little bit for a few days of Aquaphor, and somehow it relieves the skin.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, that's a good point. And I think that's the deception of the beauty world, right? Is of course their goal is to make as much money as possible. And so they will push expensive products, but you don't really need to have them as long as they're good quality. And Oil of Olay was one of the things, not sponsored, that you told me very young, if you're going to use a cream, use this cream because it's been the most effective for me and it's pretty, cost effective too. And I think that's one that I used for a long time until of course, as you age, you have needs for other chemicals, right, in the products to support how your skin is changing. But yeah, that was a good one. How about you, Aunt Lauda? A truth and something that was not true that you were told about beauty.
The truth definitely was always before you go to bed, clean your face, right? So you have to clean it with, I mean, before, like Anna was saying with grandma, I used to have this cream from, Pond's or whatever, and she took off the makeup, for instance, and also our aunties, right? That's how I learned. I was, because they took forever. I mean, it was totally how you call that, a process,
Mm-hmm.
right? That whenever they were ready to go to bed, it took them maybe an hour to do that. And I was like, oh my God, until you realize that, yes, it's so very important. You can't go to bed with the makeup on. And I have a couple of friends that they did in the past. And honestly, I mean, I was like, no way. Sometimes maybe if you didn't really put a lot of makeup, but I'm talking about mascara and all
Yeah.
these things, right? So yes, it's so very important to clean your face, put a moisturizer, vitamin C, whatever you want to put it during the night that absorbs even better. That's a very true one. And the one that wasn't true at all, well, I mean, not true, but there were some dermatologists that I met, and this particular one, and he told me once, he said, oh, no, no, do not use sunblock. Sunblock will bring you lots of problems, lot of damaged skin and spots. It's totally the contrary that what they're. It's only marketing. Can you believe it? So I did. I didn't use sunblock for a while, and of course my skin is starting, to come out with spots. And I totally realized when I went to another dermatologist, he said, "No way, that's the first thing you have to do." Right? So sunblock is important one. Even though they told me, you shouldn't, and I did follow, and I knew, I saw the results. It was
Mm-hmm.
terrible, terrible,
Yeah. Yeah.
especially nowadays.
Yeah, and fortunately, I think a lot more products include the SPF in it so that it's built into, your face cream. And I certainly look for creams that have that included. As you age, probably into your 40s, 50s is when you see the sunspots showing more.
Exactly.
And in that, it takes
So
time
good.
to try to lighten. You could do it, through more extreme procedures, but yeah, it's important to do that. And also for skin health, right? Because you think that even a little bit of sun is not bad, but you got to treat skin cancer as a very real thing and be careful
Totally.
about that.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very important.
Yeah. I think for me, I think something that was said and that I think I would say is not true, and this might be controversial, is that going gray or silver makes you look older. And I think the fallacy is that only old people get white gray hair, right? But I know that I was gray since I was 16. I had like little glimpses of this patch that would always come through, but I dyed my hair from 16 on, and it became a trend in 2021, actually, that with the pandemic, of course, people couldn't do a lot of things. And one of those things was get their hair colored professionally, right? And a lot of people opted not to color their hair at home. And so people grew out their gray. And even the young generation, they called it the grandma look, which is a little
Yes.
offensive, but they decided to go gray or silver, right? And even artificially make their hair gray and silver. And I
Yeah.
think that that's just not true. I think if anything, it's just embracing who you are naturally, right? And I think that is beautiful to embrace who you are naturally. And I find that a lot of white, like mama's white hair, is very pretty. Silver hair is very pretty. And so I think that was a not true situation. And I know mom fought it for many years.
Oh, yes. Oh,
Up
yes.
to 2 years ago.
Yes.
But
I
it's
think it was COVID or something that it for whatever reason was like 3 or 4 months without being able to go to the
When you
beauty
went to
salon.
the hospital, remember?
yeah,
Something like that.
yeah,
When
Yes.
I had to
Yes.
go to the hospital.
yeah.
You
Uh,
couldn't dye your
and
hair.
one thing and another, it was like 3 or 4 months, and I had more white than I would try to make it light, so
Mhm.
it in the how do you call them that have different colors, so that it wouldn't.
Like a light, yeah,
Uh-huh.
sunny.
The highlights.
But
Mhm.
after 4 months, forget it. And I said, you know what? This is it. This
Well,
was about 4 or 5 years ago. I was already, what, 75, 76. I think that's fine. And I let it
I
go.
I heard, well, I saw many of those because I took, I have my gray hair since 2017 when it grows back. And I did have a lot of gray hair, so might as well I didn't paint it. But I've seen many videos that describe a person with a gray hair, and it says that the woman is more self-esteem is high, confident on herself, that shows, and she looks, she admires that and she brings it up,
mhm.
right? So it's more, I would say, mature and more confident on herself.
Which is a good segue to how you would describe the process of aging now. Before we do that, I don't have a truth aside from the ones that you already shared about good creams and keeping your face clean. But I think another falsehood is that wrinkles are bad. Because I think wrinkles, especially like what they call the smile lines, right, is an indication of a happy life. And as we know, laughing, smiling, those are all things that release different neurotransmitters that actually are good for you. And so I think that it's the sign of someone who's lived a good life. And I'll take that over looking like an alien. So, but let's talk about how you personally define beauty now, right? In the phase of life you're in now. And let's start with Aunt Lauda, since you started talking about, being gray, women that have gray hair tend to have
Yeah,
higher self-esteem.
exactly. First of all, you have to admit that aging is not an option. How you want to age, it is. So everybody's gonna go that way, right? And when you accept yourself as you are, inside, outside, it brings it naturally. So I would say that it's so very important, yes, to take care of yourself, to look nice. And if you're going to have gray hair, of course, you're going to have a nice hairstyle, right? Not just like that, because yes, you might look terrible. But I mean, taking care of yourself is so important, but also to recognize yourself as a very important person for yourself, and healthy person, because you also are you outside what you eat inside, right? What you consume. So, and if you're happy, it shows. Sometimes, I don't know if that happened to you, but many times to me, that they say, today you look different. No, it's because you're happy, and there is some flash inside of you that you can externalize. So yes, I would say that that's what it is.
Mhm.
Yes, you have to take care of yourself, but you have to accept that longevity. I mean, aging is a must do.
And I think what you're talking about is, yes, acceptance, right? And I think that's where people get a little paralyzed, is they're trying to pause a moment in time that they can't really control too much. And it's a resistance to just the natural way of things. But I think you're also talking about the bidirectional process of how beauty comes out, right? Because how you look outside might generate compliments and people noticing, and that will feed your self-esteem potentially, or your sense of self. But I think also taking care of yourself from inside out, right? Working on your spirituality, your mental state, your emotional state, and your physical state otherwise, right? All those things feed a good sense of self that I think naturally also enhances your beauty, because
Correct.
you glow there. I believe you glow. There's an aura about you that shows you're investing in yourself. And
Correct.
that's what people respond to also. Mama, how about you? How have you, or how are you currently defining the process of aging gracefully, beautifully?
Well, first of all, I was just thinking, talking about, taking care, of course, nutrition and so on, because from the inside, you're going to look healthy and happy. But I was also thinking that what the French call, and forgive my accent, the joie de vivre, which means that joy of living each day. You see these old people, old ladies in France, and they have this, way of, like Tia Laura was saying, a shortness and self-confidence
Mhm.
in their days that are not going to be easy, because as we old, besides trying to look beautiful, inside of you, all of you is growing old, and we need to not feel bad, like you were saying, but enjoy, what you have. Number one, I believe it's a blessing that you can grow old and you can
Of course.
see around you, your loved ones, your children, your partner, your friends, your family for as long as possible in trying, I mean, the of course, hoping that you have a relative good health so you're not too much of a burden for them. But don't not see it like that's terrible. I'm growing old. That's terrible. When we were young, in your 18, 19, 20, they would tell you 70 years, 70 years. Who lives to be 70 years? And now that I'm in my late 70s, actually the last year of, and you feel good and you take care, there are things that, you're going to do things slower. You're going to have little pains here and there, but to look the way you look at life too. The people that have this serenity, this way of accepting life, that's one thing that grandma had,
Mhm.
like this serenity. Of course, with grandma was her faith,
Mhm.
and faith is also your spiritual life is vital
Mhm.
as you grow older, I think.
Yeah, yeah. And I would agree with both of you. And I think that that's how I've looked at the process of beauty. And I've never been one too tied to like cosmetics and having to fit the visuals that are out there for us, whether it's in magazines, commercials, social media, right? I've never really tied myself down to that. And I think that's a lot of this too, is really looking inward and trying to block out those other things, because you really have to internalize for yourself what the sense of beauty is and define that for yourself. And I think it really is tied to this triad of physical care, mental care, and spiritual care, like you all have said. And so I think it's that holistic approach. And I think as I've gotten older, I've gotten better at some of the other pieces. I've always been someone who's pretty had a steady physical routine, but the other pieces have become way more important. And I've noticed that it's definitely made me embrace the process of aging more and feel good about where I'm at now in terms of that. Yeah.
You're a natural beauty.
Exactly.
You don't need
Oh,
to put a bunch of
Yes,
things. And that brings
because
me
you
to
don't
you're
need
a
makeup.
natural beauty. And Tia Laura has been brave and courageous in so many ways that she shows it too. She has had very difficult times in her life too. And that brings me to extreme, how do you call it, plastic surgery. You have
Oh
these
yeah.
people, mostly, of course, famous people, actresses, whatever, that they were beautiful. And then right now you have no idea who that person is, who that woman is.
yeah.
They changed
Change.
everything.
Yeah, it does. And I, and I know there's a whole other pressure tied to people who are famous, but I definitely appreciate the ones that preserve the natural process of aging because I think there's beauty in the natural process, right?
Totally.
And I would say you're a natural beauty too, Mama. So
With your
let's
balloons.
so let's help the people out there. Let's give them 3 tips. Each of you probably has 3 tips you want to share to help them approach their own process of aging gracefully. We'll start with Aunt Lauda.
So my three will be again, use sunblock. Nowadays, you need to use sunblock. And of course, also watch what you eat, like we were saying, from inside out, and it brings you more longevity. The other one is drink water. Don't forget about keep hydrated. I mean, you need to drink water. And now also I realize after all these situations that went on with me that you need to use products, and there's so many out there nowadays with no parabens, as much natural as possible. Actually, there is a beautiful brand that I always use that they bring a lot of natural ingredients. I won't say it because I don't sponsor, but it starts with a C.
You can
And
say it.
it's
We'll just say not sponsored.
okay. Clarence is one of those. It's amazing. But of course, there's so many out there. There is people that are doing already their own cream. So yes, try to use that kind of products that won't hurt your chemically inside your skin, because just remember, one of our biggest organ is the skin.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So watch on that one.
For sure. Educate yourself on what's in there to make sure it's not going to do long-term damage. How about you, Mom? 3 tips?
3 tips to grow old graciously. Well, first, of course, is to take care of your health. And that means, like we were talking about your physical appearance and well being, nutrition, walking, movement. I've noticed that to grow old, movement, even walking outdoors, dancing, even cleaning house. Of course, now we have to be careful how we bend and things like that, what we pull, but I mean movement. That would be the first one, which is your inside. Second tip to grow graciously, I would say, like we were saying, accept. Don't feel, upset or
Frustrated?
frustrated.
Disappointed or frustrated, yeah.
Frustrated, and you show it. Like Tia Laura was saying, we're going to grow old, and thank God you're growing old more or less fine. And of course, your mind, read. I need to get into these games that help your mind. Read good books, read spiritual books. And I would say just that, accept life and live, a moment. It shows how
Yeah.
you feel, it also shows and helps you, feel good.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of what I'm going to say is going to echo what you said. Certainly, exercise, a routine, and along the lines of spiritual and mental care is meditation or some form of grounding daily that clears your mind, in addition to spiritually investing in whether it's daily prayer or meditation, whatever that means for the individual. In addition to drinking lots of water, which was a big change for me, it was a difficult change. I would say less caffeine, also not very popular,
Yeah.
but less caffeine, less sugar, which is a hard
Oh,
one for
yeah.
me. Little to no alcohol, because alcohol
Oh,
dehydrates.
no,
Uh,
please don't do that. Just a
that's just
little
a
every
fact.
day. A cup of red wine will help your
Your
heart.
heart. Coffee too is known to have in small doses some health benefits, but you also don't want the other extreme. And then the last one I would say is get sleep. Because
Oh,
I
yeah.
think when we're younger, we don't realize what a detriment it is when we don't get enough sleep. And as you age, of course, there's lots of research on needing less sleep than when you're younger. And I'll put some of those facts out. But it's important to get sleep. I think 7 to 8 hours is ideal for most people.
Oh,
And
yes.
so that's a critical one. So I am curious. I wonder what people think of the tips we've shared and also thinking about the truths and myths they were told as they were, young, learning about how to maintain their own sense of beauty and what people think beauty means nowadays too, because I think that is changing in a good way, right? We have to get outside of just the superficial and what people see of us, but also really working on ourselves. And maybe this sparks some other thoughts that we'll do a deeper dive in terms of maybe the more extreme things that we've tried to maintain our beauty. But yeah, we'll wrap up by introducing ourselves. We'll start with Mom,
Ana,
my tia,
Laura.
and I'm Joanna. And we want to remind everyone, whether it's good, bad, or funny,
live
Live
it
it
up.
up.